Good morning. We're going to squeeze some book talks in here today. This week I completed 3 books. I've already passed this one along, so I read it in print. We have it in the library, and my phone is going to be, here. It's called Call Down the Hawk by Maggie Stiefvater. So it's not currently in the library, but it will be available for checkout later if you want to put it on hold. Meanwhile, we have a lot of other books by Maggie Stiefvater. Come, let me talk to you about them. They're very, very good, and they don't check out nearly enough. So if you like fantasy, she's a great author. This one is a secondary trilogy related to the Raven Boys cycle, which I believe is 4 books. But this book follows Ronan Lynch, who was introduced in the first series, Raven Boys. He is a dreamer, okay? When he goes to sleep, he can manifest really anything and potentially bring it back into the real world with him. All kinds of things. And sometimes people. So, in this book, I don't want to tell you too much about it because I don't want to spoil anything for you. But I would recommend reading the Raven Boys cycle first. If you don't want to, you can start with this. You could read it by itself. It's still good. But there's a lot of interesting things happening in the story. You've got people trying to kill each other. You've got people keeping secrets from their own family. There's a lot of magical objects and magical people and people trying to kill some of these magical people. But anyway, lots of action, lots of fantastical stuff. Great story. Highly recommend. The other 2 things that I read this one, Sanctuary Somewhere. This is a novel in verse, so it lives in our poetry section. And it is about a boy, it's by Dimmig, a boy named Osmo, and he finds out that he is undocumented. He did not know he was not an American citizen until his senior year in high school. Okay, his sister was born in America, so she is a citizen. So there's a little bit of conflict there, but in the story, they talk a little bit about like his family situation. ICE starts to do raids in their community, so everybody's on high alert. And they talk about, do we need to move? Do we need to try to find one of these sanctuary cities and move there so that we aren't questioned about our status? So there's a lot of stuff going on with those particular issues. It was a good story. It is a quick read. But like I said, what he really wants to do is go to school. Okay, so there's a counselor at his school that helps him figure out how he's going to do that. And then, like I said, all the family stuff too. So good read, very quick. Like I said, looks like that. So can read it probably in about an hour if you don't do anything else. So recommend. And this last one, we have it here in the library in print. I listened to it on audio. There were a couple different narrators, so that was nice. It is the script, okay, is what we have here. I recommend the audio. This would probably be good also, but it's based on a musical, okay? It's about a boy who falls out of a tree before the book starts. Falls out of a tree. There's a lot of tree metaphors and tree stuff. They talk about trees a lot, okay? Falls out of a tree and breaks his arm, okay? When he goes back to high school, he's telling people about how he fell out of this tree and he laid there for like 10 minutes, like waiting for somebody to know that he was laying there and come help him, and nobody ever showed up. But later, his story changes a little bit because of an interaction that he has with a person, the only person to sign his cast, okay, who, at the beginning of the story, Evan Hansen's talking about all the stuff he's doing, and he's been assigned by his therapist to write a letter to himself, okay, which he does, and then he prints off in the computer lab, and Connor, this other student, finds it and thinks that Evan is making fun of him, okay, or that he purposely put it there for him to find. Connor's having a hard time. He reads this letter, and then later that night he goes home and commits suicide. And his parents find that letter in his pocket and think that Connor wrote that letter to Evan. You learn all this at the beginning. Okay, this is the beginning of the story. What starts off as a misunderstanding becomes so much more complicated. Okay, it is kind of heavy material at times, obviously, because we're dealing with suicide and depression and anxiety and all kinds of stuff. But there's also some lighter comic moments and stuff in there too. I do recommend it. It is a good story, like I said. But just beware. There's all these other elements in there, but recommend as well. Dear Evan Hansen. So anyway, last book talk of the year. We'll see you guys when we come back in January.